Hello, YouTube. It's me, Corey. Today's Monday, December 7th. Happy Monday, everybody. I hope everybody had a good weekend. I have some interesting things going on this past week in my mental health recovery. Basically, what's going on is I have ended up going off a couple of my medications. So the only thing I'm taking now is Wellbutrin and Strattera, but I'm no longer taking Invega and I'm no longer taking Tenex. And the Invega was by my choice, but the Tenex was not by my choice. I did not expect to go off that one as well. What happened was there was a problem with insurance. My Medicare Part D plan has decided to stop paying for the Tenex, and I cannot really afford to pay. It's for the even for the generic brand, it's like $400, and I just can't afford to pay that. That's half of my monthly check right there, so that's not going to happen. So I had no choice but to quit that, and basically, the reason why I went off in Vega was because I was just getting too sick of the side effects. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with Invega. There are good things about Invega because it's the most effective antipsychotic I've ever been on. I'm able to go very long periods of time without hallucinating or hearing any voices. We're talking like 2 or 3 months, at a time, and no other medication has been able to do that for me in the past. So this is very effective. But the problem is, Invega has some pretty brutal side effects. And to make a long story short, I was just really sick and tired of constantly being tired all the time. You know what I mean? I've just been tired and out of energy basically ever since I started it 2 years ago, and I just decided enough is enough. I need there's got to be more to life than this. I can't be sleeping my life away. And even when I do get good sleep, I'm still tired when I'm awake. So it's just more than I could handle, you guys. So it did get decreased a couple times. I went from 9 milligrams down to 6 milligrams, down to 3 milligrams, down to nothing. Every time we decreased it, the side effects would go for away for a little while, like 3 or 4 weeks, but then they would come back. And that was kind of a repeated pattern. So I just got fed up and decided to go off it altogether. I'm not really having too many issues at the moment with my mental health, which kind of surprises me because I did just come off two different medications, basically cold turkey. So I think I'm doing very well considering the circumstances. I guess the only thing that I'm kind of noticing is it just sounds like a bunch of people are whispering around me, and I know there's no one else here because there's no one else in the house. So um, I but it's not really bothering me that badly. You know what I mean? I can tolerate it. It's better than being tired all the time, in my opinion. Now, if if we should have a problem and I do start hallucinating a lot or hearing a lot of voices and they get to be too loud to where I can't sleep and that kind of thing, because that's usually about how this goes, I can pursue another antipsychotic. Someone in one of my support groups brought up a really good point. I've only been on 5 antipsychotics out of like 30, and there's still a lot of different antipsychotics that I've never tried yet. So if it becomes too unbearable, I see the psychiatrist on December 31st, which is a few weeks away, and I can ask her about trying a different antipsychotic than Invega. And there's a couple of things that I have in mind. The two things that I'm thinking about asking her about are Geodon and Zyprexa. The reason for that is because everyone is basically telling me that Geodon is supposed to have less side effects than all the other antipsychotics. I've heard a lot of good feedback about Geodon. So I'm kind of leaning towards that one. But also the reason I thought of Zyprexa was because when I was living in Washington, my psychiatrist there, I asked her about it at one point, and she told me that Zyprexa is supposed to be very, very similar to Seroquel. And Seroquel worked out really good for me for several years. Unfortunately, I had to be taken off the Seroquel because of what it was doing to my liver. That was a problem. My labs were coming back with elevated liver enzymes and LFTs and all that kind of shit. So I have to get blood work done every 6 months being on antipsychotic medication. So that's kind of why I had to go off Seroquel. Um, but, I was wondering if I started Zyprexa, I wonder if it would have the same effect as Seroquel, just not as hard on my liver, you know what I mean? I do hear that Zyprexa has some side effects, but I think if I was on a low enough dose, I could tolerate it. Seroquel did make me sleepy too, but it made me sleep when I was supposed to sleep. Like around 10 or 11 at night until 7 or 8 o'clock the next morning. And when I did wake up the next morning, the tiredness, the drowsiness would go away after I was up for about an hour or so. You know what I mean? Like I would have plenty of energy in the daytime. And I actually lost weight on Seroquel. I was in really good shape when I was on Seroquel. I was going to the gym on a regular basis. I was running 3 or 4 times a week. I had energy. I just functioned really good altogether, and I kind of miss those days. So that's kind of what made me think of Zyprexa. But right now, I'm kind of leaning towards the Geodon. But this might not even happen. It might not even get bad enough to make that happen. Another thing I'm doing for this period of time that I'm off antipsychotics is I am pursuing other coping strategies for hearing voices and seeing things that aren't really there. I um what was I gonna say? Oh, other coping strategies. Like alternatives to medication, my therapist at Hope Network just started working with me on something called EMDR therapy. I think it stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And I don't want to go into too much detail about that. I'm actually going to make a separate video about that. I'll do that later this week and upload it later this week so you guys can see that. And I'll talk about EMDR therapy. But there's a couple other things I'm working on too. Just trying to stay engaged with therapy. I do meet my new therapist this week, Wednesday. I'm kind of nervous about it, but my previous therapist speaks really highly of this lady and says that her favorite thing to work with is schizophrenia spectrum disorders, and that would be me. So I hope she enjoys working with me. Um, I guess the only other thing I'm really noticing is I don't really need to sleep as much since I stopped the Invega. Um, in fact, to be honest with you, last night I didn't. I think like the first or second night I was off it, I only slept like 2 hours. Then the rest of the nights I've been sleeping like 6 to 8 hours. And then last night I didn't sleep at all. I never have been to sleep yet. And I don't even feel tired. I don't think I'm gonna need to go to sleep until way later tonight. So that's another thing I've noticed. I do got to sleep at some point because too much sleep deprivation can really aggravate your symptoms. So we don't want that to happen. So if sleeping becomes a problem, I might have to address that. But for now, I'm okay with it. It was only one night, so that's not too bad. And other than that, my anxiety is a little bit bad without the 10x. I haven't actually had a panic attack yet, but I am afraid that I could have a panic attack. My intentions are to somehow try to get the 10x back. After I get done uploading this, my next task is to contact my mental health agency. I'm going to try to talk to my psychiatrist nurse and tell her that the insurance stopped paying for the 10x and see if there's any way my psychiatrist or her nurse can maybe somehow talk to the insurance and see if they can somehow convince them to cover it again. I can't really think of what else to do about this. So I figure why not just give it a try, you know? And if for some reason the insurance really won't pay for it, I'm hoping maybe they can put me back on Visceral like I was a few years ago in Washington. That it did make me kind of sleepy, but it wasn't, you know, too terrible, and I was on a pretty low dose of it. So if we can do that again, that might not be so bad. But yeah, that's what's going on this week in my mental health recovery, guys. Like I said, I'll post another video later this week about EMDR therapy, and I I think that's about all I wanted to talk about today. I'm kind of having trouble thinking right now. But yeah, that's pretty much what's going on with my mental health recovery. So I hope everybody's doing well. And if you have any questions about anything that's going on with my medications, just leave it in the comments. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Sometimes it takes me a minute to get back to you guys, but I do eventually do it. So I will do it. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great day and great rest of the week, in fact. Talk to you guys later.